Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar with EBizCharge. We will go ahead and get started, and I will hand it off to Russ.
All right, thank you very much, Leah. Appreciate it, and add my welcome to all those of you listening, either live or perhaps checking out the recording at a later date. Really appreciate you taking a few minutes out of your busy schedules to share this topic with us today, which is regarding protecting your business, especially in the area of AR payments or credit card payments and compliance around all that. As was mentioned, my name is Russ Groff. I'm with EBizCharge, and very privileged to have the opportunity to manage the relationship between EBizCharge and implementation specialists. As you all know, they're a great partner, been at it a long time, very successful, very highly regarded, and it's my honor to be able to partner with them on a day-to-day basis, and also just to bring you this important content which we're willing to share with you today. So, so with that, just a little bit of quick background on EBizCharge, which should give you a little bit of a sense of our credentials to even be talking on this topic. And by the way, we'll, if there are questions, go ahead and put them into either the question or the chat dialog box in your GoToWebinar tool, and we should have time at the end of our presentation to address those the best we can, or take further notes and get back to you if we need to. So the company EBizCharge has been around now for over 20 years, actually. I guess we need to update this slide. Last year was our 20th anniversary. Still privately held, so still owned and run by the same couple that started the business 20 plus years ago, which is relatively unique in our space. I can think of maybe one other privately held firm that's doing what we do in terms of payments, and that's a much smaller firm than what we are. We're now approaching, I think, 250 or so employees, most of which are in our corporate headquarters in Irvine, California. And that's also fairly unique, right? We've got a very strong home office. All of our development, all of our support, all of our or most of our sales, all of our admin functions, and all of our IT functions are all right there in-house in our corporate headquarters, and those folks are there in office every single day. So it's really a great company culture that results from that, right? The sales is sitting right next to support, which is right next to our development team, and so if there are any challenges or issues, very easy for those teams to connect and resolve any issues. They all know each other, they like each other. It's a really good situation. So a fairly unique corporate culture that I think really pays a lot of dividends for our customers, for our clients, in terms of our ability to properly support and continue to improve the product and listen to your needs and what we can continue to do to make the product and our solution better for your organization. So really solid that way. One of our big differentiators, I guess, in the marketplace is our ability and willingness to do lots of integrations to different interfaces. So not only Dynamics BC, which we'll focus on today, but all the Dynamics suite of products, all of the major ERP applications for the middle market, especially, as well as shopping cart environments, CRM systems, and lots of vertical applications as well. So very oriented towards working within the ecosystems that we operate in and being partner friendly in that regard, and putting, again, total solutions together for our customers. And the result is we've got now over 400,000 individual users. I think that's across some 13,000 companies or more, growing every day. So a great success story, and one that we wake up every day thinking about nothing but this topic of how do we improve this process for our customers. And part of that process revolves around security, of course. And so why this matters, probably pretty obvious, but it's worth discussing, is that if we do this right, if we, and we all understand that we live in a dangerous world when it comes to cybersecurity and the handling of sensitive data. Challenges with that are in the news all the time. But if we do this right, we have a lot of positive results. We have positive relationships with our customers, which allows them to be long-term relationships, which is how we all build our businesses. It builds a positive reputation in the marketplace, which is a good thing. and we get peace of mind, right? We get to sleep well at night. We don't have to stay awake worrying about whether we've got this situation handled or not, because you do. Now, there might be other issues in your business that keep you awake, but it's not going to be because of the way you're handling credit card processing if you're working with a firm like EBizCharge, right? And of course, the opposite is true when we're not taking good care of this, when we're not paying attention to this topic in our organizations, then we get opposite results and worse, right? We face financial impacts in terms of lost business and lost time and lots of stress and potentially penalties and fines to boot. So it can be a serious downside, and it's something to be aware of, and it really matters as a result. That's why this topic is important. And unfortunately, many firms, in fact, most firms, do not pay enough attention to this risk, and they leave themselves vulnerable as a result. And it's not uncommon to see firms today using paper, notepads, sticky notes, or if they're going digital, maybe local spreadsheets or other local applications that are used to store credit card data. And in fact, that then, and a recent survey here that we cite in 2020 is that 88% of merchants store unencrypted credit card numbers on their networks or at their desks, even worse, right? I recently had a phone call with a prospective merchant that describe their workflow as being people answering the phone, customers calling in and giving them a credit card number over the phone, and the salespeople write it down on a pad of paper, and then they key it into a system, and so forth. So not at all uncommon, but really challenging, and really leaves you vulnerable to theft and fraud, and certainly what we would call non-compliance, right? You've probably heard the term PCI compliance. That's something that we'll talk about a little bit in depth, but it's a bad situation, and it's amazingly common how many firms still do not do this the right way. And it's, I guess, worth asking, why is that? I think the slide here says matter of convenience. I might be a little bit more aggressive about that. Maybe firms are just being lazy about it, or at least nonchalant. I think a lot of firms feel like the solutions to the problem are too complex or costly. And in many cases, just feel like, hey, we're under the radar. No one's really going to target me. I'm a small business, et cetera. If there's people out there looking to steal information and so forth, they're probably going to go after bigger firms and with deeper pockets, et cetera, those kinds of things. So that's a common perception. And I get that, but I don't believe it's accurate. And I think if you were honest with yourselves and talk to other people of your size business and your peers in your organization and peer groups, I think you'd hear some horror stories out there, because the reality is that really any business that accepts or transmits or stores credit card data, you've got to comply with the requirements of PCI, and you simply have to do it. So what does PCI mean, right? PCI compliance. So PCI stands for Payment Card Industry. So that's PCI. And there is a Security Standards Council that exists, that creates the standards and the protocols and sets the requirements for what it means to be compliant with their rules and regulations. And those regulations are designed to reduce the risk of data breaches, right? It's all about protecting your customers' data when they provide you with credit card or bank information. And so if you're receiving any of that data from your customers, if you're managing any of that data, you have a requirement, you're obliged to comply with those PCI requirements. And that compliance is typically it really should be validated annually. So there's a process to go through to make sure that you're remaining in compliance with those requirements. And the consequences of non-compliance are there's many examples, unfortunately. And we hear about the big ones, right? There's Capital One, for example, and Marriott and Target here on this slide that have had some very major breaches of their data that have exposed credit card numbers for millions, hundreds of millions of customers, and they've paid huge fines and had all kinds of damage to their reputation and so forth as a result. So there's no question that, we know that even large firms that spend a ton of money on trying to, maintain compliance and so forth and have secure environments, even they are vulnerable. But the reality is, we hear about these big ones, but most breaches are not publicized. We don't hear about them. And in particular, when those breaches are against small, medium-sized firms, right? SMBs, as we call them. And I think that there's a term out there where people think about what a small or medium-sized business looks like. There's ways of thinking about it in terms of annual revenue or number of employees or number of locations, things like that. But the reality is that SMB marketplace is quite large. Right, it's below enterprise is the other term that's used for these big guys like Capital One and Target, et cetera. Those are big enterprises, but that middle market firm could easily be, 50, 100 million more in revenue and hundreds of employees, multiple locations, and those firms do get targeted. Trust me. If you haven't been yet, count your lucky stars. You probably know someone of your size that has. So it really is an issue that has to be addressed by all businesses, not just the large enterprises. So what does it take? What does it take to become PCI compliant? And actually, it's pretty straightforward at a high level, but the devil's in the details, of course. But again, if your firm is handling payments data, you really need to take a hard, detailed look at your current process, right? Analyze what you're doing today, how you're doing it, document it, and look for vulnerabilities in the way that you're storing or transmitting banking and credit card data. And there is a form, a self-assessment questionnaire that's provided by the PCI organization that allows you to kind of work through that in detail. And of course, as you identify vulnerabilities or risks or challenges, then obviously you need to go make the necessary changes. So again, at a high level, pretty straightforward, right? Analyze what you're doing now, document that, take a look at this assessment questionnaire that's provided for you to really dig in and understand what you're doing and where the vulnerabilities are. And then once you find those exposures, make those changes. And this is probably an area where you could leverage your contacts at the implementation specialists, right? You've got consultants there that are very experienced in business process and workflow, and they can really help you understand how you're doing it today, how you could improve these different flows and functions. So make sure you leverage your partner there at implementation specialists for some of this assessment process and getting ideas on how to make improvements. I referenced the concept of a questionnaire, right? The self-assessment questionnaire. I'm not going to go into this slide in detail, but what you can see here is that there's a variety of different types of questionnaires that apply to different types of environments depending on how you're processing and what kind of processing you're doing. If you're doing e-commerce or point of sale, card present or card not present type applications and payments. So there's all different varieties and styles. And so depending on the nature of your organization and how what your workflow looks like and so forth, there may be one or more of these forms that would be applicable to you. And they're not fun. The good news is that if you're in a compliant environment and doing things the right way, it can become very easy to maintain this annual review. And if you're a client of ours, we actually will help you with that. So it is something that's out there, that securities environment that has these forms available. You can work through those, if nothing else, to give you some idea on the right kinds of questions to ask and how to be thinking about this as you go forward. But again, if you process with us, since we're compliant, we make that very easy for you. It's the simplest form on this list, like 20 some questions, and we can even set you up on a portal environment and get you logged in and even help you answer some of those questions. So we really make it easy, and because on your own it can be pretty painful, right? And especially if you're not doing things the right way. So fortunately, our customers, the users, folks that are using EBizCharge for their payments processing, have all kinds of secure payment tools available to them, and really makes that application and compliance environment very easy for them. So let's talk about some of those things. Right, so our applications, again, fully PCI compliant, which means we're providing data encryption and what's called tokenization of the data. So the full data is not even flowing through Business Central and so forth. It's actually tokens that represent that data that's then in a secured encrypted environment. So very strong protections there. We utilize offsite data storage for that encrypted and tokenized data, so a whole nother layer of protection. And so those data centers have their own requirements for compliance in this area. We can filter out and identify unwanted fraudulent transaction attempts right at the beginning, right? So we can prevent these things before they even happen. We've got tools to catch that stuff right up front. And then we've got, as part of our application, some functionality, which we'll talk about in a little bit more detail, about how we can make it easy for you and your customers to maintain this data in a secure environment. So, and in fact, even when you're making a transition from one environment to another, so let's say you're coming off an existing payment processor and moving to EBizCharge, we provide a payment method, a request payment method that makes it very easy for everybody in a secured environment to get all that data updated, because it can't be converted, right? Because the data is not really convertible because it's all encrypted and tokenized and so forth. So, so then we add additional functionality, 3D Secure, which we'll talk about in a couple minutes. We've got email payment links and then a customer payment portal as well. So we build in application functionality into our tools that provide this compliance environment for you. So again, PCI compliance, meaning the payment solution has been certified by the PCI Council. We're actually listed on their website as a PCI validated payment software, and I'm not aware of any of our competitors that today are currently listed there. So we've really made a huge effort in this area. We've got our own internal teams that focus on this every single day. As an employee, I go through all kinds of ongoing, every month or more often, training on fraud detection and challenges, embezzlement issues, and phishing expeditions that we get in our emails now all the time and so forth. So we really focus heavily on this. It's a huge issue for us. So our product, our software and app, all of our applications are built to meet that secure software standard. Again, we provide that tokenization, encryption, and offsite storage, which is a key part of that compliance. We follow all the latest top-level protocols for secure transmission of data. And again, built-in fraud detection and prevention, right, built into the application. So, so there is a way of doing this for you that really takes it off your plate and puts it on the processor's plate, and not in the case of us at EBizCharge, puts it on our plate, and we can now put our processes and resources and energy and efforts into maintaining that environment, right? So one of the other applications, we'll talk about two of them now that lend themselves nicely to this, is this concept of email pay, or you might hear it referred to sometimes as a click to pay sort of functionality. And what this means is that as you send out invoices or orders right out of your Dynamics BC environment, it can have a link embedded in it, which is, can look like your logo or those kinds of things. Your color code can be positioned and formatted any way that you want to make it look very professional and good on your documents that you're sending out. And it allows your customers then, right from within those invoices and orders, to click in and make payments, whether that's a deposit on an order or a payment of an existing invoice. Do it right within that environment. So no need to go into a portal or go anywhere else. It's all built in as part of the workflow of you sending out an invoice to your customer, and they can click that link and pay through a secure form, again with no need to log in. Very simple and easy workflow for them, and then automatically that gets applied to the invoices and the reconciliation process back in Dynamics. So very slick and easy for those environments where that makes sense. And then the other option that can come into play is what we call our customer payment portal. And this is actually an environment where a customer would log in, and this might apply more when you have customers that are on terms with you, right? Or they've got some other sort of payment process in place. Maybe they pay multiple invoices at once. Maybe they make partial payments. Maybe there are recurring payments that are made at a certain time of the month, certain date, certain dollar amounts, all kinds of flexibility that can be built into this payment portal that allows, again, now your customers to get into that portal, see their invoices. There can even be some reminders for payments being due and those kinds of things that can be built into it. A custom branded homepage that looks like your company, right? It's got your logo and your colors and images and so forth. And then your customers have the ability to seamlessly get in there and select what they're going to pay, how much you're going to pay, and it automatically syncs back with Dynamics and sends out payment notifications, lets your customers know that payment's been received, and all that is documented, all the history is there for them to manage. So very easy to work with portal. And if you have an existing customer portal, maybe for other purposes, depending on the nature of your business, we could also embed our payment portal within that. So a customer wouldn't have to necessarily go to two different places. We can integrate those together. Again, we've got our own dev team and our own support team right there in Irvine, ready and willing and able to help make this as easy as possible for your customers and therefore for you, right? So a couple of really nice features there. And then the last one that we'll talk about here from a functional feature standpoint is this concept of a tool called 3D Secure, which is an additional level of fraud protection. And really what it does is it shifts the liability for any potential fraud in a given transaction over to your bank provider, right? Whoever the bank issuer is that's issuing that card. So now it takes it off of you as the merchant, takes that that liability and that risk off of you entirely if there is even any fraud that occurs, because the bank has approved it. They've gone through this extra layer, and so now they've got all the liability and the risk if there is any fraudulent activity. It's not necessarily for every one of our customers, but some industries are more prone towards these kinds of fraud challenges. Maybe your business has had some challenges in the past, and it makes sense for you individually to look at this. So it's a great added feature at a little bit of extra cost, but really well worth it if that's a concern for your organization, to add that extra layer of prevention and shifting that liability, right? So another tool that we offer to our customers. So I think when you bring all that together and think about all that we're doing here in terms of, first of all, a seamless integration into your Dynamics environment. So you're never leaving the application. It's just in the normal standard workflow, very mature, solid. And we've got hundreds of users and we've done many, many versions. So very deep, mature, a high quality integration or everywhere that you would think it should be. Run all those transactions directly then within BC, and in the background, EBizCharge is operating, right? A great support environment for you. 24/7 in-house support coming from our offices in Irvine. If you call our 800 number today with a support issue, you're literally getting to a technician, an expert in your software within 30 seconds or less. Unprecedented in our industry and really a game changer for our customers. So outstanding support environment. Again, enterprise grade PCI compliance. Again, huge focus of our team to focus on this every single day. And then these additional complementary tools to help automate that payment collection. We talked about some of those already. So, and there's a couple of others that we didn't even address. So really strong function feature set, great support, great security, and seamless integration with very easy installation. We can get customers up and running in a matter of minutes in many cases. And then of course, price is an issue. We all are paying fees for processing these credit card transactions, and we have a meet or beat price guarantee, and we have very transparent pricing. We're going to be very specific. We're going to do a good job of really understanding what your environment looks like, what kind of cards you process, and those kinds of things, what your history has been like, and we'll put together a very transparent, easy to understand price that should be better than what you're paying now, but will at least match. But in many cases, most cases, will beat what you're paying now. And of course, we're a big part of the Dynamics community in the marketplace. We've built integrations with other third-party add-ons to BC, like binary streams applications, Insight Works, open door rental applications, many other players in the Dynamics ecosystem that we have worked with to build integrations for them as well. So we're a good citizen, if you will, of the ecosystem, and we'll always be that, and we'll continue to be that. So a very strong offering for you, and of course part of why we're excited to be partnered with an implementation specialist to provide this to you all. So we've got a few minutes left. Hope that was of value to you and of interest. If you've got any questions now, I'm happy to try to address them or take notes if I need to get an answer to you after the fact, or we can certainly follow up with you afterwards and provide you with some additional content and information as necessary. So again, really appreciate the folks at Implementation Specialists, Deb and Mark, Leah, thanks so much for helping us put this together. And I guess I can open it up. Are you guys seeing any questions in the chat or Q&A environment yet?
I do not see any questions.
Okay. Hopefully everyone is still awake, or that was just so comprehensive, we answered all the questions. But seriously, if you think of something after the fact, which is not uncommon, please let the team at Implementation Specialists know, or reach out to us directly anytime that you would like to. Our contact information is right there. That's my direct phone number, 949-398-4764. And that's my email, russ.g@ebizcharge.com. Happy to talk with any of you individually. And so feel free to reach out to me anytime. But again, also feel free to leverage your great contacts at Implementation Specialists to assist you as well. And we look forward to hopefully a further conversation. Hopefully that was of value to you.
Thanks, Russ and Rebecca.
You bet. Thank you.